Do you remember the life you wanted with your dog? But it may not be the reality for you now, or yet, maybe a better word. You've been looking around trying to lessen the chaos you're experiencing with your new dog. With potty training, maybe they're nipping and biting, excessive barking, or are they jumping on people, on you, on your guests? Or all you want is them to walk nicely on a leash, but it's not happening. So, who am I? My name is Linda Kwan, and I am the owner and trainer at Wow Bow Wow. I specialize in working with pup parents with family dogs, companion dogs, and I help them raise and train well-mannered, well-adjusted dogs. And so I help pup parents with the young dogs, the babies, the 2 to 4 month old, as well as the adolescent dogs, the teen dogs, from like 4 or 5 months old till about 2 years old. And then, of course, the rescue dogs or the mature dogs that people have had for a bit, but now they're running into some issues. So back to the topic. You may be having some difficulties training your dog, and you probably checked out some dog training videos on YouTube and maybe even attended a group class. But if you stopped implementing after your classes, not being consistent, or, for some humans, changing their behavior is hard. I'm going to tell you a secret. Sometimes changing the human is harder than the dog. So, for example, if your dog is a dog that's been jumping on you and you still continue to, greet them as they're jumping on you, they're not going to change. They're still going to continue jumping on you. So that's an example of the human and how a lot of times they need to make some adjustments in their behaviors for their dog to change in their behaviors. And then, another mistake I've seen is that while you're training your dog to do the behaviors you want, sometimes you need to put up barriers or set up management like baby gates and crating your dog to prevent them from doing the mistakes. For example, potty training. Making sure your dog is not free in the house so they can possibly go, pee on that Turkish rug that you have in the living room. So if you continue to make these mistakes, you're not going to see progress, and you can't blame the dog. So what is it that you need to do? You need to hone in a couple of skills. And one of them is, being able to understand your dog, reading your dog, understanding what a dog is. And then, like we mentioned earlier, you've probably been working on your training skills, but the third element, maybe you're not consistent, right? And so you're not making progress because you may not understand who your dog is. You may have gotten some training, but you're not implementing and not being consistent. So here's an example, reading your dog. So a lot of people come to me and say, well, I have the back door open. I don't understand why they are still pottying in the house and outside. They have access to the backyard. Well, what the human doesn't understand is the dog doesn't know the difference really, what is an appropriate place to potty, unless you start showing them where to go. So, the human has to make some adjustments here, making sure maybe the puppy or the dog, the new dog, is, limited in where they can access, or in a crate or a pen, and then consistently taking the dog out to the potty, the appropriate potty area. So, knowing the dog, understanding that dog doesn't understand just having a door open doesn't mean that's where they go potty outside. And, your skills, making sure you know that the dog probably needs to go, maybe if it's a young puppy, maybe 1 or 2 hours. And as an adult dog, maybe 2 to 3 hours in the beginning as you're training them, right? And then implementing the barriers to make sure they don't make mistakes. So it's day in and day out you do this, consistency. And for some humans, well, okay, I'm going to say for all humans, this is tiring. But if you don't continue, it's not going to get better. They're still going to be pottying inside and outside the house. So, so that's an example of the skills that you need to hone in on. And if you keep making those human mistakes, right, of not being consistent in implementing, of not changing your behavior and like setting up management to prevent the undesired dog behaviors, then you're not going to succeed. Now, if you can see, any change, any accomplishment of the things you were wanting, dreamed of with a dog, then what is that life like for you? Well, probably less chaotic first. But you know what? Less frustration. You don't feel like you are so isolated. Because, for example, Jill, there's an example of training with my Jill. Okay. So, having a barky dog, for example, when guests come over, right? If you can train your dog to behave and to change their behaviors, then you know what? Your life is more open, free again. And then, basically you can have your life back is generally what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I'm muddling this part. But the bottom line is, unless you actually, implement and be consistent, then it's not going to happen. The training's not going to happen. The goals that you set are not going to happen. The dream dog that you thought you were going to live with is not going to happen. And for me, my goal is if I can help you get closer to the dream that you wanted with your dog, then you know what? Then I will see less rehoming in the community, less relinquishment, in my neighborhood. And that's what I would like to see. So, dog training can be simple, but if you need support, if you need to hone in some more of your skills, and just generally learn more about your dog, contact me. I do have group classes, but you know what? You can definitely keep in touch with me because I have group field trips thereafter because I want you to succeed. Besides the 6 weeks, there are other opportunities of ways to continue working with me so I can help you make sure that you can have the life you want with your dog. All right. So thank you for joining me for my Training Tip Tuesday. And, I just wanted to share these concepts with you because I wanted to make sure that, like I mentioned, my purpose is that I want to see less dogs being rehomed. The pounds, the shelters, they're all full. They're all full, and there are too many dogs that are good dogs that are being either a lot of them actually, dogs that are being euthanized because they've been abandoned. So that's what I want to change. That's one of the things I really want to change in our community. All right. Thank you for letting me speak. Thank you for listening. And I will see you next Tuesday.